There are moments in life that are hard to bear, like a huge mountain in front of us. We've all had mountains in life that seem too difficult to climb. Almost 21 years ago, People's Church was facing one of those mountains.
In 1998, People's Church found themselves in a trial for survival because of a failed bond program. It was a lot to ponder, a lot to think about. We thought how ironic it would be for us to return to People's Church in Arnold, where we began our ministry 22 years earlier as youth pastors. We also considered what an incredible partner People's Church had been to us in missions everywhere we had lived. So we came to the decision that we would come. Part of the solution was that People's Church would borrow $1.6 million. That represented a 21-year journey, an arduous journey to pay that money back. It was a chilly fall day on November 4th, 1962, when People's Church met for the very first time in the city of Arnold in the founding of this church. Founding pastors Kenneth and Doris Brown, along with volunteers, canvassed neighborhoods in anticipation of this day.
They had announced that they were opening, and so my family, my mother and my father and David and Debbie and Mike come up, and we all went to the first service. And there ended up about 30 people there. The first thing you knew that it was getting overloaded. So they talked about doing a new church. So we had a meeting, and they had some ground they had purchased over on Lonedale Road. And they built a church over there, and we stayed there for quite some time. And then that's when they decided to build the building up where daycare is at, and then we built the church that we're in right now.
I started People's Church when I was a teenager. So I was in sophomore, junior year of high school. I met my husband here. I've worked here for 28 years. So when you say to me, where would I be without People's Church, I can't even imagine that.
We've had a lot of good times here, a lot of progress. People just love the Lord, and we all just kind of work together.
Back in 1998, I just remembered how broken we were when we got the news as to everything that was going on. And the church and our family both were very broken. And I recall just thinking about how it was all going to work out.
Every week for the past 21 years, we have set the funds aside each week, and you have to allow for that payment to be made, that big $11,000 payment each month. And we have had to lay a lot of things down. We carried a big load all the way up the mountain, and we had to lay a lot of things to the side that had to be put on hold.
God had His arms around us. We were surrounded by God. You could feel Him working, but we knew that we needed additional help. And Pastor Boyd and Marilyn came, and I feel that they were the glue that put us back together, piece by piece.
A mountaintop experience is something a person never forgets because there is a beauty and power that comes with taking the view in. In the Bible, God's presence or activity was directly linked to mountains. Jesus was tempted by Satan on a very high mountain overlooking the city of Jerusalem, but he never gave in. Instead, it was a stepping stone to begin his ministry. His most famous words were spoken at the Sermon on the Mount near the Sea of Galilee. Jesus also went up to a mountain on many occasions to pray. You see, it's not the mountain that is important, but the symbol of strength and stability. From the top of the mountain, not only do you gain a greater perspective and vision, but also a moment to reflect on God's greatness.
I think this day really shows the commitment that people have to this church and the strong relationships we all have with one another, that we knew that this church was in the situation it was in, and something like that would make people run. It would, people wouldn't want to be a part of it, and they don't feel like they should do anything about it. But our church has really come together, and I think that's one of the things that really shows how steadfast we are in the Lord. Just keep moving forward, staying on pace, staying on track, everybody doing their part. And I'm not just talking financially, I'm talking about just being there for one another, helping, doing this, doing that, because everything collectively brought us to this day.
I came to this church when we were halfway up the mountain, trying to get through the debt. And I never saw that as like a stumbling block as far as the love that people showed to each other, or just the hands that reached out to others. But I guess what I see when we get up to the mountain is just an opportunity to breathe in the goodness of God, breathe in the faithfulness of God, the opportunity to celebrate each other, that we helped each other up the mountain, that we carried each other even at times.
When you get to a point like this, you should celebrate it and kind of recognize what we have accomplished, and then set goals and look forward to the future of what we can do next.
This church has been amazing at just missions and reaching out to countries around the world, and I see that even greater in our own community now that we see over the mountain.
We've taken several mission trips, and those times stand out as just wonderful time of ministry. Plus, we would go to the place, the country where we were going to, and then we could fellowship with the people. We couldn't understand them, but there was always such a wonderful spirit.
There was one in particular that I have fond memories of, is when we went to Tucumán, Argentina, and we were going with a team of men and women from the church, and we were working to build a church for a congregation down there that basically met in a shack. I mean, it was a very rundown place.
We did a lot of construction. I was doing some filming and translating. So by the end of the day, and I forgot to mention that we would have church service every night in Argentina. And if you know something about Argentina and church service, they don't have short services. They go for hours.
One night when we had finally made it back to our room, we were basically moaning and groaning on the bed with the soreness and achiness. And my brother was across the room, and he was pretty much in the same shape I was. And we started laughing because he had mentioned, we really got to try to do a future mission trip that's just strictly evangelism, and not construction. So.
When you find moments like that where you're just laughing or where you're having a good time, whether it's on a missions trip, whether it's just an event in the church, you don't forget those kind of moments. And serving alongside family members or people that you truly care about is the greatest feeling ever.
I've developed a lot of friendships here that I very much appreciate. And even as a ministry leader, the people here are so quick to rally around projects or jump in and get involved through volunteering. And They're there to pray, support, give.
Last Christmas, that Christmas event, dinner in the basement here with all the people in the church was just a complete blessing. I mean, Dawn and I was just so surprised that a church would go to this much trouble for the whole church to come to a meal, and the food was just out of this world, and you know, the blessings, the giveaways. I mean, the Lord's just blessed this church more than anything, and we just want to continue to see it grow, and the people here are fabulous, and you know, we feel at home here.
Something that I had struggles with going to college is finding a community, like a church family, you know, because it's really hard to do the Christian walk on your own, and I've learned that, and I know that's probably one of my biggest difficulties, was always trying to find someone to rely on. But I always knew coming home that I had my home church, and I had my family, and I had my friends, and all these relationships that I built. And I think without the church, I think I'd be a little lost and may not be where I am today.
I would like to say praise God for all of us that this huge financial burden has been relieved. These chains of debt have been broken. It's actually hard to believe, but we have experienced one of the greatest human emotions, the emotion of relief. And as we look around and see where we are today, it's amazing because we are strategically situated to be able to do ministry with much more freedom to place our resources toward ministry. God has given us 9 prime acres located on Highway 141 where thousands of people see our property every day. This is a pivotal moment in our development as a church.
I just want to say thank you, Boyd and Marilyn, first of all, for being great in-laws to me, but also just being faithful and consistent. I guess I've seen a different side than what everybody else has seen, because I've seen the weary times. I've seen the times where the burden is great, but I've also always witnessed the consistency that you guys have always had, and the love that you genuinely have for this church and for the people and the community.
You've always shown a faithfulness and a commitment to the calling that God has placed in your heart. I think that ministry is people fulfilling the calling that God gave them. A calling is not something that anyone can create or design for you. It's unique, and it's the only way it shines through is when you're authentic to what God places in your heart, and that leads to an authentic ministry and authentic people.
We've gone through a lot of troubled waters, but you have helped us to be steadfast. Your leadership is beyond words.
There's plenty of times he probably could have just thrown in the towel, but his commitment to the Lord is unwavering, and I've seen it in a lot of people, but I think his is probably the strongest I've ever seen.
Going where he's called you and taking risks and doing it because you feel that is what he had planned for you. And everyone here is very thankful for your dedication to this church.
I've been around pastors, and I've felt many blessings from them, and I feel that we need to really bless them back and love on them as much as they love on us.
I have seen the office and the church run with such integrity, and that is everything. If you can, for one thing, I'll just tell you, Brother Brooks treats people right.
They are the same wherever they are, and that authenticity it's genuine, it's real, and it humbles me. It causes me to want to be a better person.
I pray that us as a congregation would just come alongside you like never before, where we would find our God-given gifts and talents that maybe we didn't even know we had, but that God is just showing us, and that we would come by you and lift you up in a way that, not that we haven't done in the past, but because of this freedom, I believe that people are going to just recognize gifts in their life that they want to serve like never before. They want to be with each other and work in the church and volunteer in ways that just brings us closer together as a family.
I know for sure that the church most likely would have folded if it hadn't been for Pastor Boyd and Marilyn coming back to Missouri. And it just means the world. I just wish the people that have gone on before, they're with the Lord, I wish that they could realize and wish they could have been here when we paid the church off. But you know, I'm thinking Vision Sunday, they be looking down and they will know it. I think God might give them the opportunity to witness that.
We want to see God more clearly and seek His vision for our church. We've climbed a mountain, and there will still be more, but our perspective from here on out will never be the same. Can you imagine if everyone in the church had a desire to dream for the church, to love our church, and to be the church in our communities? Don't let your mountain be an obstacle, but an opportunity to experience the presence of God like never before.
Our 5 goals going forward, a vision to climb this new mountain, is number 1, we want to minister to people. We want to take money that has been freed up and we want to minister to people. Number 2, we want to develop effective ministries that minister to our community. And number 3, we want to renovate our facilities in ways that enhance our ministries. Number 4, we want to save for future projects. And number 5, we want to keep missions front and center, as we always have. And all of this, we want to do for the glory of God.
Could Marilyn and I please have a little more heat in the office now that the loan is paid off, you know, like all these years. We've been freezing. You all know how it is sometimes in the auditorium. And one time I had a glass of water on my desk that actually froze.